Hello, and welcome to the channel of the Moon's Prophet. Today, I'd like to share some messages for the Gemini full moon on Thursday, December 4th. All right, y'all. It may be Sagittarius season, but Scorpio season is not over. And this full moon in Gemini makes that very clear. The first thing I want y'all to know about the full moon in Gemini is that it extends storylines begun while the sun was in Scorpio. You can think of it as the next movement in an emotional journey that was begun by Scorpio season and heightened by the Scorpio new moon. Take a moment and think back to that new moon. Recall that it took place when sun, moon, and Mercury retrograde met up in the sky. Normally, a new moon takes place when sun and moon meet up in the sky. This time, Mercury retrograde was there with them. And the guest appearance of Mercury retrograde added a dimension of revision and review to the underworld journeys of the new moon. If this is not ringing a bell, take a beat and check out my new moon in Scorpio video where I discuss all of that. Long story short, the presence of Mercury retrograde supported us in retracing steps and recovering truths and clarifying something essential in the context of the emotional regenerations initiated by Scorpio season. Mercury retrograde gave us a magnifying glass, and with it, many of us were able to see clearly uncomfortable yet necessary truths. Well, this full moon marks the moment when those truths want to be spoken aloud. What was uncovered during the introversion of Mercury retrograde seeks expression under this full moon now that Mercury is direct. This is because Gemini receives power from Mercury. So the full moon in Gemini takes the shape of the sign that Mercury is in. And Mercury is in Scorpio, the sign of going deep and getting honest. It means that this full moon invites us to share the truths uncovered during Scorpio season generally, and those truths uncovered during the new moon in Scorpio in particular. And because Gemini is the most relational sign in the zodiac, symbolized as it is by the sacred twins, the truths rising now touch on our relationships and our intimacies. This means that under this full moon, a message rises to be spoken between you and another. And it is a message that carries real emotional weight. It moves the waters within you. And this is because this full moon is powered by a grand trine in the water signs. Saturn in Pisces and Jupiter in Cancer both trine Mercury in Scorpio. So all three water signs are connected during this full moon. The message is simple and direct. Speak from the heart. Speak from the depth that you found. What rises to be said now is ready to be said. Now is the time to transform your relationships by speaking your truths. All right, y'all. The second thing I want y'all to know is that this full moon reaches back to the new moon in Gemini, and that's because every full moon represents the fruition of the intentions set under the new moon of the same sign. The new moon in Gemini took place on May 26th. Here are some questions for you to sit with. Which truths from May are resurfacing now? Which conversations have circled back for clarity? Which understandings about myself have matured since spring, and what wants to be said now that I was still gathering the courage to say then? And the last key dimension that I want y'all to know about this full moon in Gemini is that it squares the nodal axis. Take a look at this graphic. Remember that a full moon is an opposition between the sun and the moon. That means that they sit in a line, 180 degrees apart. So wherever the sun is, the full moon takes place in the opposite sign. It's from that vantage point that the moon is lit up by the sun's shine. So this full moon rises precisely when the moon and sun are both at 13 degrees and 3 minutes of Gemini and Sagittarius, respectively. And at this point in time, the nodal axis runs from Pisces to Virgo. Think of a square as a crank arm, 2 lines meeting at a perfect 90 degrees. One line is created by the sun and the moon, the other by the north node and the south node. Their perpendicular meeting forms a hinge of energy. At that angle, a continuous torsional exchange begins. It behaves like 2 gears meshing at right angles. The axis between the sun and the moon turns, and the motion transfers through the field, moving straight into the nodal axis. The vertical line responds to the horizontal line of light. Rotation in one channel produces rotation in the other. So this full moon turns the crank of the nodal axis. It churns up situations, people, and memories from your karmic past. It stirs what has been settled. Old sediment rises into the current of your life. What comes up now is not random. It is the echo of a deeper story returning for recognition. If the nodal axis from 13 Pisces to 13 Virgo touches your chart directly, then you'll want to slow down during this full moon. If you slow down enough, you'll experience deja vu. You'll realize, oh, I have been in this situation before. Maybe not this exact moment, but the same pattern, the same archetypal turning. This is especially true if you are in your nodal return or your reverse nodal return. If your nodes run from Pisces to Virgo or Virgo to Pisces, this lunation speaks from the center of your karmic story. The same is true if your nodes run from Gemini to Sagittarius or Sagittarius to Gemini. You are in your nodal square, which means you are standing at a karmic crossroads. So this message rings with particular force for you. For all of us, this full moon extends the storylines begun while the sun was in Scorpio. And it represents the fulfillment of the new moon in Gemini that took place in May. And it represents a karmic decision point. That's a lot. And also, it's quite fitting for the last supermoon of the calendar year. I send y'all courage, clarity, and compassion. Till next time.